Hey Engwe, if you can build bikes as good as the Engine Pro 2.0 and the updated Engine Pro and the X20, we need to have a chat. So this isn't just aimed at Engwe, this is aimed at all Chinese e-bike manufacturers, and this benefits everybody, including the companies, mainly the companies, but it also benefits us. I love the Engwe Engine Pro 2.0. I think it's the best bike that Engwe have built by a long way. But there's room for improvement. The Engine Pro is still a good e-bike. The X20, sturdy animal. But there can be improvements. And let's start with the gearing. Whilst the Shimano Altus is perfectly good enough, the chainring and the freewheel configuration isn't. And with most of Europe now being stuck at a 15.5 mile an hour speed limit, 25 kilometers an hour, and the negation of a use of a throttle, well, you can use one up until 4 mile an hour and then it needs to cut out. We seem to be lacking in a few things. So let's start with that configuration and how it improves the bike. A, it stops ghost pedaling, and B, it gives you a better range of pedaling. So this in itself improves range. Not all of us are bothered about speed at my age group, and apparently my biggest demographic on YouTube is between 40 and 60. We're not bothered about speed. We just want to go out on mini adventures and we just want to get to work and back. We could do with that minor improvement. So add that to the cost of your next e-bike, or even some of the ones you've got out there at the moment. Suspension. There's room for improvement. And while the suspension that's on the Pro 2 and the X20 and the original Engine Pro, it's good enough. But most of us are swapping them out. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are swapping them out for air suspension. The front fork could do with an upgrade to air shock. There's plenty of different ones out there, and with you buying it mass, you could probably get heavy discounts on these. And the mid shock. So you could upgrade these to D&M or A5 adjustable mid shocks and supply the air pump that goes with them. So you could build that into the cost of your next e-bike. Just a thought. Batteries. So as you've probably seen, I'll be surprised if you haven't, there's been battery fires across every e-bike manufacturer. And although Chinese companies that supply e-bikes don't make the batteries, they could do with being safer. There's going to be a law comes in at some point that it has to be specific. And to be honest, there's companies out there that are making waterproof batteries, Bellatrix. You can submerge theirs in, I think it's a metre of water for 30 minutes. And it would be nice to see this in the UK. If not, UL. We could do with UL batteries in the UK. There's going to come to a point when you're exporting and they're going to be stopped because you haven't actually supplied a safe battery. And it's coming. The governments are cracking down all over the world on the battery issue. It's coming. And this is an heads up. This is for all Chinese manufacturers out there that manufacture e-bikes. It's coming. The law's coming. They're clamping down on all sorts. And I love my e-bikes. And if I can't get out of a new e-bike because they won't allow it into the country because the batteries just don't come up to spec, you're going to lose sales. Batteries are always a contentious issue. Most people don't understand the chemistry of batteries, how to charge batteries. And I think that's where a lot of these fires are starting, that and very cheap batteries. I'd like to see UL batteries in all Chinese e-bikes, especially the ones from Engwe and their main competitors. Like I said, there's a law coming. Let's see what happens. Let's talk about brakes. If a bike weighs over 25 kilos, I have to be honest with you, mechanical brakes don't really cut it. I'd like to see 4-pot, 4-piston brakes on anything over 25 kilos. A cost that could be absorbed in the cost of the bike. All these things could be costed into the cost of the bike. And people to pay it. People will pay it. You've got a bum, especially at my age group, my demographic, people will have the money to pay the extra bit. For bums on seats, trust me, there's people out there that will pay this. They don't want to do the upgrades themselves. So there's that. IP6 rated e-bikes. Now in the UK, over the last summer was a write-off, and this summer don't look too good either. It just rains. And we get a lot of it. And a lot of people won't take their bikes out in the rain because they know they're not waterproof, they're not weatherproof, they're not wet water resistant. And as much as e-bike companies would like us to believe that they are sort of semi-resistant to water, the reality is water will find a way. So I'd like to see an IP6 rated e-bike with a minimum of an IP6 rated battery. That means you can ride these all year round, all weathers, without worrying about the bike conking out because of an electrical fault. And I don't see a downside to that. Obviously there's going to be a cost, so we factor that into the cost of the bike along with all the other things. But people, like I say, I keep going on about this, people will pay it. There's a bum for that seat. Just build something. That's all of you. That's not just Engwe. This is all of you. Build something that's UK compliant, IP6 rated, and you'll sell thousands of them. One of the biggest worries that people have is taking their bikes out in the rain. What if you had a bike you could take out in the rain and not worry about it? I mean, even now, I stick bags over I actually carry a transparent bag and a zip tie to pull over my display just in case it starts raining when I'm out. Engwe supply quite a decent puncture resistant tyre with their bikes, and it's quite a quiet tyre, and I've ridden it around a few places and they're very good tyres, but they're not puncture proof. It would be nice to see these bikes supplied with tannis armour installed or something similar that there's nothing worse than getting a puncture when you're out riding. Nothing worse. It depends on where you are. If you're 5 miles from home and you can't get a lift back, you've got to push that bike 5 miles back, or at least try pedalling it on 0 pass. No, nothing worse. So supplying tannis armour into the tyres, and there are a couple of e-bike companies out there doing it as standard, negates that puncture. I mean, it's up to the customer if he wants to put flat out or slime inside that after, belt and braces, but it's something I'd like to see, and I think a lot of people out there would like to see. Again, factor into the cost of a bike. My demographic, 40 to 60, that follow me on YouTube, they're not bothered about speed. They're just not. There's something that my demographic would like, and there's e-bike companies out there doing it. The two strengths of those bikes, that they both have different strengths. The one is the cadence sensor, which is lazy cycling. It does drag out the battery, but it's lazy cycling. And then you've got the torque sensor, which allows you to eke out better range. But there's a few e-bike companies out there that offer dual sensor bikes, switchable. And that would be great. Wouldn't that be great that you could switch over to the torque sensor if you felt like getting a bit of exercise, go out on a mini adventure, and then when you're coming back you realise, oh, I've got a good lot of battery there, and then you flip it over into cadence and come home and just fly home. They're brilliant. They're just, both bikes are brilliant in their own way. But like I said, there's a massive advantage to having both sensors on one bike. I love the rear brake light on the Engine Pro and the Engine Pro 2. It's brilliant, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. But isn't it time that we upgraded that so we had indicators in? Left and right, just simple plus and minus buttons that can be adapted through the controller, through the display. Indicators are paramount when you're cycling around town in cities, and while I'm at it, self-cancelling indicators that self-cancel after 5 blinks. Just factor it into the cost of the e-bike. Virtually everybody out there is still having a go at it now, having a stab at it. But I said self-cancelling because I've ridden bikes with indicators on and I always forget to turn them off, which makes it more dangerous than not having them at all, because people think you're going one way and you're not. So as you know, in the UK and Europe, the speed limit is 15.5 miles per hour, which the more I ride e-bikes is enough. I'd like to see 20 mile an hour. I'd like to see 500 watt motors come in through the consultation, but that seems a long way away. So what do we need? On the Pro 2, the new display for Europe, you can lock that throttle to 4 mile an hour. Unfortunately, the one I've got, I can't. So I'm going to request the Engwe send me the controller if I need it, or just the display if I need it, so I can lock my bike to 4 mile per hour. What I ideally want, if that works, is a higher torque rate when you're setting off. So you don't want it to be anything similar to the walk mode, because that's just not strong enough. You need something with heavy torque. So while it takes you up to 4 mile per hour, the speed that it takes you there propels you up to about 5 mile an hour. And by then, you've cut in with the cadence sensor, or you managed to cut your, well, basically, with the torque sensor, you're pretty much halfway there already. And this is important because people are having their bikes taken off them by the police. They get caught with an operational throttle that goes over 4 mile per hour, they're confiscating bikes. If you don't believe me, look at this. And I felt really sorry for this chap. And he was unlucky. The police have a saying that they only have to be lucky once. We have to be lucky all the time. And that luck's starting to run out because they are focusing on e-bikes. The reason they're focusing on e-bikes is because they can't keep up with people on e-motos, who are the real nuisance to society on e-bikes. These young kids that are riding around on Saurons or Talarias, whatever. In the UK, there's no difference between one of those and a normal e-bike. And the press have gone after us on a regular basis. They'll say, oh, e-bike did this, e-bike did that. 10 times out of 10, it's not an e-bike, it's an e-moto. And the press haven't give any difference between the two of them. They just point it as being an e-bike. It's not an e-bike. These robberies that are taking place, I'm telling you now, it's not kids on e-bikes. And if it is, they're not bought ones. These are bikes that they built, and they're homebrew bikes, and they'll do 40, 50 mile an hour as well. 15.5 mile an hour. We need them programmable. We need to be able to unlock at will by going into the settings. But if we get caught by the police, that's down to us. But so we can lock each of our bikes at 15.5 mile an hour and a 4 mile per hour throttle. I don't mind paying £100 for a controller, a display, and the bike controls. I don't mind that, as long as it's programmable. And then when you get pulled over by the police, if you're riding legally, there's nothing they can do. But again, that 4 mile per hour limit, it's important, and especially at an high torque. So if that thing flies off up to 4 mile an hour, you're probably getting up to about 5 mile an hour by the time it starts slowing down. And like I said, by then, your pedalling's cut in, be it with a torque sensor or a cadence sensor. These things are important, not just in the UK, but Europe as a whole. Because in Europe, they're confiscating more bikes than they are in the UK. But I think they're going to clamp down in the UK even harder. And I don't want my bike taken off me. So yeah, future down the line. But the faster you do this, the better. Because as much as I see, or as much as I monitor the new UK law consideration, I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Next year would be lucky. But I don't even think it's going to happen after that. I think governments have fallen over themselves to try and monetize e-bikes. And it's disgusting. Like I've said before in other posts, these governments talk green, but they don't walk green. And the greenest option of all are e-bikes. They're mini adventures on their own. And I go on about this all the time. The mental health benefits of being out on an e-bike, just having a day out on a mini adventure, outweighs any of the costs that you spend. They're brilliant. And as I've shown before, anybody that has a go on one, comes back with that silly grin, they're sold. They automatically know within 5 minutes that they want one. So this is what I'm proposing. Try and build e-bikes that have all this in, or at least a modicum of it. Being able to retrofit a speed limiter on the throttle on all of your e-bikes, it's worth £100. You'll make a small profit on that, but you'll also make your customers very happy, especially at my age group. Like I said, my demographic, 40 to 60. Well, actually, it goes up a bit higher than that. I cover all the other demographics, but that's my strongest demographic. Like I said, this isn't just aimed at Engwe. I think Engwe have come on leaps and bounds since I've been testing their bikes. They're just a world apart from what I originally received. The customer service, I don't know about because I haven't had to deal with it. But again, that's something that has room for improvement. Improve your customer service. I know it's impossible to monitor things around the world. I understand that. I understand the loss of profit when you have to deal with something like a battery replacement wipes out. I think people think that Chinese bike companies are making a fortune on these bikes. They're not. By the time you've built the bike, components, shipped it across the world, delivery, they're working on micro margins. They're not working on big profits like you all seem to think they are. I think Engwe has the chance to be a massive player in this game. I mean, in the US, there's a few above them. I think in the UK, they're probably top 3. But I'd like to see them get to the top. I'd like to see them to be the #1 supplier of e-bikes in this country. Because the bikes are very, very good. But the bikes need updating, and they need to work with the government for whatever laws that they're pushing out. And give the people the choice to unlock them, but give the people the choice to have a 4-mile-an-hour throttle. It's important because, like I said, and I'll remind you again here, people are having their bikes taken off them by the police just for having a throttle that works. I'll leave you all with that. Any other ideas that you have or any other requests that you have, leave in the comments because I'm posting this to Engwe. I'm going to give it to my contact at Engwe. I'm going to let her have a look at it. And just say, look, this is what we need. This is a community of Engwe e-bike riders is what we need. The cost is the cost. Some people who want to do it themselves, they'll just buy the basic bike. But there's a lot of people out there that are just scared of even taking the back wheel off. They're terrified of it. They want to know places that'll do it. And as you know, in the UK, very few. Alphas won't touch them. Oddly, they got their own Chinese e-bike, the Carrera, made in China. They'll touch that all day long. But they won't touch anything that's come from outside their wheelhouse. And this goes the same for most e-bike repair shops. They simply don't have the insurance to cover for battery fires or anything else. So insurance companies, if they find out that you've had an e-bike in your shop overnight, they cancel your insurance. I know this because I know a couple of e-bike repair guys around by me. So, you know, bear it all in mind. These are all things that will make you a stronger company. It will make you an industry leader in the UK. And like I said, all these things may build up to the dream bike. So I'm going to leave you with a picture of the Engine Pro as an example and what we'd like to see with it. and then the rest is up to you. I know this might be a complete frame rebuild, so a different design to encompass a UL battery or a waterproof battery, or at least an IP6 battery. But look, you'll get fantastic sales from this. I'd be happy to review it. Have a nice day, everyone.